on a phone, mute yourself. If you are on a computer, you can click down on the bottom left. You'll see a little microphone button. Click on that, it will go red. All right. All right, there we go. Also, just from a roll call perspective, I know that part of the performance coaching has you all attending these kinds of calls. Will you do me a favor? Make sure you just shoot a text or maybe even just on Inside Track under one of those videos. Just make sure you like or something so that we know that you actually attended. I don't want anybody to get the raw end of the deal. Derek is recording this, so we'll have this for future use. But let's go ahead and get started. Let me introduce to you Christi Reece. Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us.
Absolutely. My pleasure to be here.
So before we get started with this whole thing, I thought maybe it'd be nice if Christi just shared a little bit about her and who she is. Obviously, she's, as Derek alluded to, she's a superstar agent here in the Grand Junction office. And we are super blessed to have her. She's a great fit. Like we all just kind of get along. So we love having you here, but why don't you share with them, who are you?
Okay. Well, I grew up a couple hours from Grand Junction, a little town called Lake City, and my dad was a real estate broker and my mom was in the title business. So I grew up around the industry and I got my license when I was in my early 20s. I didn't think it's what I wanted to do. My dad was very customer service focused. He was your typical realtor in the 70s and 80s and 90s that just worked his rear end off, and but he was pretty forward thinking. But after a couple of years, I made some pretty good money, and I thought, no, I don't really think this is the business for me. So I got into a few other things. And when I met my husband and moved to Grand Junction, I still had my real estate license. I never let it go, which was a smart move. And I kept falling into deals. It was a good time in Grand Junction, and people said, oh, you have your real estate license? Can you help me with this? And I'd say, sure. So I hung my license with a small firm, Valley Brokers, Carol Tompkins, and really worked a lot out of the back of my car. And I had a whole setup in my trunk with folders and paper clips and staplers. At a time when that office, and so somebody would call me and say, I just sent you a fax, and I'd say, great.
Oh, hey, Jen, I can see it on my computer. No, seriously, your face is on my computer. Look at that.
Somebody's not.
Yeah. Hey, guys, one of you is not on mute.
Yeah, please mute yourselves. I think a couple that just joined, Bobby, Becky, please mute yourselves.
Right, that sounds better.
There we go.
So I decided it was time to start with a company that offered more support for me. And I had one small child and a baby on the way when I moved to Bray Real Estate. Really built my business. It became the top producer at Bray Real Estate, honestly, through a lot of hard work and a lot of trial and error. And when I saw the opportunity to come over to Coldwell, I felt a lot the same way that I did when I moved to Bray, which was it's time to take the next step. It's time to have more support. It's time to go with a company that can offer me more than what I'm doing now and offer those support systems that I really need in order to grow my business.
Wonderful. And so, so you have a husband and
Yes.
You've got kids. Why don't
Yes.
you tell us a little bit about your family?
My husband, Rob, is a professional photographer after many different professions, but he was a graphic designer and web designer and really helped me build my business in the beginning. He's moved on to photography and he does not like to shoot architecture, unfortunately, so he doesn't help me a whole lot, but he's great for consulting and he has a good eye. My kids, Zenon and Sophie, are 12 and 10 and attend the public schools here in Grand Junction, and we're all very busy, as all of us with families are.
Yeah. And what do you, any outside interests? Is it just work, or do we actually have a life?
Well, I actually have a life now that I have a team and have a lot of really great people helping me. And I love the mountains. I grew up in the mountains and I love to go up there and hike. I just climbed Wetterhorn Peak with a group of ladies from here in Grand Junction on Sunday, and that was awesome. Got to 14,015 feet. And I love to trail run and ski, and have a couple bikes. I won't say I ride them a lot, but I do have 2 bicycles, and just love to be outside with my family.
Right. Wonderful. Well, I know you touched on a little bit of the history, and I think I'll share with you. Well, actually, you know what? I've actually described how we met. Maybe it'd be funny for you from your vantage point. How did we meet? Like, how did this even happen?
Well, I will tell you that my first knowledge of you was at Bray when we had a yearly meeting, and they said, "Uh-oh, new guy coming into Coldwell," and we watched some videos that you were in, and everybody was like, "Wow, this is really different. He's really different than anything that's happening in Grand Junction right now." And I think they kind of thought you were so different that you were going to go away. You weren't going to make it here because things were so traditional in Grand Junction. But I think we had met in a couple of places, but my real eye opener was when I was coming out of Tom Ferry conference, and came out to see Todd with his coach button on, and I said, "I didn't know you were a coach with Tom Ferry," and we started to talk a little bit, and as we left that conversation, I started to get pretty ticked off, thinking that he was able to share all that great coaching information with the agents at his office, and as I'm explaining it to somebody, I get less and less ticked and start thinking, well, that's a really smart thing for him to do. What a brilliant business owner he is. So that really.
I did pay her for that, just so you know. I totally paid, yeah, dearly. Yeah, well, so that was a funny experience. I was in Palm Desert for the elite retreat, and that was a wonderful deal. So obviously you've had this experience. You were at a small boutique prior to. Then you went to an independent, same kind of thing, independent, but much bigger. Bray, certainly a very respected name in the community, a long history of legacy within the real estate community here in Grand Junction. And as you begin to realize that you're going to make a change, certainly you didn't leave because there was any ill will. As a matter of fact, you liked the people that you worked with. That had to be a big decision for you.
Yeah, it was huge. And Bray was very good to me. Love Robert Bray, and a bunch of great agents over there. It was a tough decision. But for me, it was about moving forward and knowing that my brokerage firm was staying up with the trends and investing in those things that were going to bring me along. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, and sometimes I resist against the new technology. I consider myself pretty tech savvy for my age, but Ring Central, I'm like, what? Why can't I use my cell phone? And now I'm going, okay, I get it. I'm going to dive in and learn how to use Ring Central and use it to my advantage.
Yeah, great. So just to kind of give you guys some base here, prior to joining Coldwell Banker, Christi was a schlocky $24.5 million a year producer. So this was somebody who was very good at her business, and she was accomplishing at an extremely high level. And she made a decision. She said, "Hey, listen, I want to go to a different level." And do you know what your numbers are now? I know what your numbers are now, but do you know what your numbers are year to date?
Closed and pending?
Closed, yeah, closed and pending, sure.
Closed 107 units, 27 million.
$27 million in closed business year to date. And that's coming off of the last 4-year average of just about $24.5 million. So some pretty amazing growth. I know there's a boatload of people on the call that are all thinking the same thing. What? How? What's the secret sauce? Why are you seeing such exponential growth?
Well, for me, it was coaching.
Coaching.
Yep.
Okay.
I got to a point in my business where I knew it couldn't grow anymore unless I really got the systems in place and had that base underneath me. It's just like scaling anything else. You can't expand unless you have a repeatable system. And I'm still working on it. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but every day I put effort into making my systems better so that I can continue to grow my business and scale it. And, there's a lot of talk at Tom Ferry and other places about how fast you can grow. And I do feel like I've had exponential growth. But at the same time, if I doubled my business in 1 year, my hair would be on fire. I think that a slow, steady growth, like our economy is seeing in Grand Junction right now, is really comfortable for me. So while yes, it's a big jump, but I also feel like it was planned. Like I got the systems in place over the last couple of years, and the move to Coldwell just helped me really reach that next step and continuing, looking forward to expanding further, growing further.
I think one of the pieces of this whole journey that I've been most pleased with watching with you is knowing that when you joined us, you were Mach 4, hair on fire, things were disheveled. Yeah. There was a challenge on the organizational side, but it wasn't just business organization. It was family organization. It was financial organization. There was a bunch of pieces. Many of the plates appeared as though they were ready to fall. Right.
Yeah.
And to watch just 15 months later and know that you have this change in your family side and structure, really amazing change on your finance, right? I mean, there was a time when you were operating a tremendous amount out of fear, despite the fact you were doing gazillions of dollars in revenues.
Yeah.
Talk about how did that mindset, which was the cart and which was the horse?
That's a good question. I mean, I think out of necessity, I think a lot of us overspend in this business. I really admire the people that can keep their budget down, because I'm kind of a shiny penny person. I like all the new stuff. I want to try the new things. And I was just, I was spending everything I was making. I was putting a lot of it back into my business and living large. I don't think anybody would have seen me as somebody in the community that was high roller, but we were spending what we were making, and I was not running a good business. So part of the transformation in my business has been with Tom Ferry and Todd's help is getting a handle on my finances, knowing my return on investment, and watching my numbers.
There's a bunch of people that just went, oh,
yeah,
the numbers? You have to track and measure? What?
And I've been tracking and measuring for a number of years, but I wasn't always tracking everything. So I started with a preset, tracking my sales and my source of business. And now, I track absolutely everything. I have a very robust spreadsheet that tracks everything. And actually thinking about moving to CTE now, which is even more robust than what I've got. And so researching that and getting my team started in that. But, it's a process that we all struggle with, I think, just keeping those, the spending in check, and making sure that we're actually putting money in our pockets and have something to live on.
Great. That's wonderful. Great. So here we are, right? We're obviously, we're on track right now. I think we're on track to do more than $40 million in sales this year. You're on track to do 162, 163 sides.
Yeah, we might fall short of the sides, which was our goal, but our GCI is ahead of our estimated goal. So I'm okay with less transactions and more GCI.
What are some of the, when we talk about business, right? I mean, generating business, last year you did 99 transactions. Mm-hmm. So massive increase, right? What are some of the lead generating sources that are just proving to be great for you?
Well, your sphere is the best thing. And that is where I really built my business. I started my business here in Grand Junction with a mom's group when my kids were little. So getting involved with like-minded individuals and not selling yourself, but everybody wants to talk about real estate, and that has been a core of my business, and I keep in touch with those people. And I don't necessarily sell myself on those calls and those touches and those pop buys, but I keep in touch with those folks, and I remind them that I'm in the real estate business all the time. So I think Sphere is where you have to start and make that system great before you expand to other things, because there are a lot of lead generation systems out there, and you can spread wide and do all of them kind of half-assed, or you can really double down on the ones that you know work, and Sphere is the first one you should really get under control and make sure that that's running well before you add those other pillars.
Great.
I love Zillow. I've been a big Zillow fan from the start because the consumers love it. I want to be where the consumers are. So I've advertised on Zillow from day one, and it's done really well for me.
Right. And you know that, right? Because you know the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And we convert really well on Zillow. I mean, the Zillow leads are usually somebody that wants to look at property. We have a Boomtown site as well, and those are long-term nurtures. So we're looking at a year to 2 years for some of those people that are coming in. A lot of those people on Zillow are immediate. You know, I want to look at property today. So we've done really well with that.
So you touched a little bit on the conversion component. There's a lot of people that are on the call that are going, well, I work my sphere of influence, right? And I advertise on Zillow, and I have Boomtown, and I have a half a dozen others, but they're not going to do $40 million in sales. Talk about the conversion component. What is it about you and your ability to turn an online lead, or any lead for that matter, into real business?
Mm-hmm. Well, I really believe in the scripts. I think you have to internalize them, and I won't say that I'm perfect at them, but my team and I practice, we role play, and we talk about the language to use in order to convert people. And we look at them as people. You know, they are leads, but we consider that they're people too, and people don't necessarily want to be converted. They want to be cared about. They want to be talked to. They want to be understood. They want to be heard. So we practice a lot on language and making sure that neuro-linguistic programming is part of our language, because that's really powerful. You can really lead someone as opposed to them leading you. You know, instead of them telling us how they want things to go, they give us their information, and then we lead them in the direction we want them to go.
Yeah, that's powerful. And of course, you have got to really be in control of your dialogues, your scripts, in order to be able to take it to the next level, to even go to that place of leading a client down a path to success. So I love that.
Hey, Todd.
Yeah.
Couple questions that have come in regarding the Z word, Zillow. Do you know your conversion rate on Zillow, Christi?
20%.
20%, which I would imagine is pretty good.
Yeah.
And then can you explain a little bit more? I think you said neuro something, a big word that didn't seem to fit into a real estate conversation. Can you back up to that and tell us what you meant by that?
Yeah, neuro-linguistic programming. So that is using language that helps you get the results that you want when you're talking to someone. It leads the conversation. So it is nodding your head when you want someone to say yes, and talking about yourself as a professional. You know, when are you going to hire an agent like me to help sell your home? You know, those kind of leading words in your conversations. And Bill Pipes is just a master. If you haven't done any of Bill Pipes' videos or done Sales Edge, it's fantastic. Yeah, really important.
Yeah. He's pretty funny. And for those of you that have been there, you know exactly what she's talking about. Those of you that you haven't, like, it's sort of funny. It's like, hey, you like me, don't you? Yes, you. It's all very animated. It's all very powerful. But talk about a guy who's in command of his words, says exactly what he means and wants to deliver, and scripts and dialogues. Obviously, even for somebody who was doing $24+ million in sales, I just want you to hear that, right? I heard an incredible. It was powerful to me. I can't even remember now what it was, but where I heard it. But it was a gal who was recently in the real estate industry, and what she said was, I need to be hesitant or acknowledge the fact that I'm in the second chapter of my career, right? So she's relatively new, and I don't want to compare my business in the second chapter of my career to those who are in their 20th chapter. And I thought that was very powerful, because I watch a lot of agents get into the industry, and we talk about this 87% are going bye-bye, right? So are you going to be a 13%er? And I see these new agents that come in, and they see somebody who's been in the business for a long time. And in some of these other markets, especially, there is this tendency to sort of sit back and let business just happen, right? I'm just referrals, and 95% of my business comes from referrals, and that's kind of a telltale sign that we're really not generating enough leads from other sources, right? And what happens is those younger, newer agents don't have the sphere of influence, don't have the past client the database built strong enough to survive on referrals and SOI alone. So what happens to them? Well, they become a victim of the 87% instead of focusing. So I hope what you're hearing here is that you have somebody who's been in the business since when?
1992.
So 1992, who every day gets out of bed and is focusing on how to generate another opportunity, how to generate another lead, and how to ensure that she and her team are prepared to convert, to make that lead a client and satisfy their need. That's pretty powerful stuff when you're talking about role playing and practice. So bravo to you on that.
Well, and I have been to Sales Edge with Bill Pipes, and I would buy anything from that guy. You know, like he could sell me anything. And when I went to Tom Ferry Summit last year, they did some role play up on stage where they took some people, some agents who they didn't know what was going to be asked of them, and they were asked to do some objection handling on stage, and that scared the crap out of me. But I was
me. I was nervous for it.
I was so impressed with the language skills that they had for those objections, and I want to have that skill so that when somebody asks me about my commission or about the market, or they have any objection, that I have that language right there, and I feel really professional, and I come across that way too, because I think that's how Bill Pipes. I mean, he's just so confident in his words and his language, and it really is powerful.
Yeah, that's great. Derek, can I keep going? Or was that okay? Great. So next on my list here is, so here you are, $40 million ish, 150, 160 transactions ish for 2017. Like, what's your future? What does your business look like in 2018? What are you thinking about for future that maybe some other agents might go, oh gosh, that's interesting. What's on your mind?
Well, when I was making my way into the top 20 agents in Grand Junction, I thought, I'm not sure where I want to go with this. I'm happy making the money that I'm making. I feel like I have a fulfilling career. But right now, when we combine our numbers and look at our team, number 2 behind Kimbrough, and frankly, I don't see why we shouldn't be number 1. Sky's the limit, right? For everybody. Anything's possible. You want it, you go for it. So, my team and I don't really talk about that being our goal, but recently it's just kind of come into focus for me, and I'm thinking we should just go for it. Yeah.
Great. So just conquest. Like I'm gonna plant the flag at the top of the mountain.
Dave's really good at what he does, and he sets a high bar, and he's a great role model for me. And so I'm just going to continue to chase him until I get it.
Right. Is there anything that you're hearing, that you're seeing out there, whether it be this market or just in the industry as a whole, that has you thinking, gosh, you know what, that might work great in my business, or that may be a way for me to get to the top? Or
well, the team concept for me has been really important, as we talked about earlier. I really needed some time with my kids. I worked so hard for so many years, and just was working weekends and nights, and business took precedence over family. And so now I have a great team, and I'm so thankful to my team members. I couldn't do it without them. They're an integral part of the success that we've had. And I will tell you, for those of you that are thinking about building a team, it's not easy, but it is rewarding when you find the right people to join you, because it is an experiment. And I was really devastated when I had to let my first assistant go, when I had to let my first buyer's agent go. But with coaching, I have built a team that I'm really super excited about, and I love coming to work with those people every day. I'm really proud of them, and I'm really proud of every success that they have. And so it's a win for me. Yeah. And so just building the team and continuing to figure out new members of the team that can help us scale our business.
So a team question has just come across the chat, and those other questions that people are asking, I'll ask those at the end, but this one feels really germane. So someone wants to know, what's your team structure look like? In other words, are there specific roles? I mean, obviously there are. So can you talk about that for just a moment, Christi?
Yeah. So it has been changing a lot. As we grow, it becomes obvious that we need to shift workload from here to there. So right now, I have Mike and Shannon as buyer specialists, and Karen McLean Wilson just joined our team. So 3 buyer specialists. I focused on the listings, so I'm the only lister on the team. We have Suzanne as our Suzanne is our listing coordinator, and we have a virtual transaction coordinator, but we're looking at bringing our transaction coordinating in-house, or so we're considering that.
Do you want to listen to it?
Sure. Is it going to disturb you?
Great, that's wonderful. Now we're gonna get all kinds of questions. Don't.
So Todd's here with Christi.
Yeah.
So, but it's a work in progress, and every time you look at the business, that workload, because Suzanne, my listing coordinator, is already pretty much maxed out, and I, as a listing specialist, am starting to get maxed out. I know one of the other questions was how many listings do you carry at any one time, and that's a personal preference as well as a workload situation. But I'm comfortable with 10 to 20. If I drop below 10, I start to go, oh, I'm not doing enough lead gen. And if I'm over 20, then I'm a little bit stressed. It's a little bit much to handle. So then with another employee or another system in place, 30 will probably be possible. Right now, 20, and we're at 17 active listings today, probably 2 going under contract today. But if I get up above 20, I start to feel like it's too much for me to manage, and I can't contact all my sellers every week. So,
Yeah.
I want to jump in. I try to look at everybody's listings pretty much on a daily basis, the new ones that come on, and Christi's are always like the top of the mark in the way that she presents them, the photography, the ad copy, the order of the photos. Like, if I ever need to have an example of a top-notch listing, I just look at Christi's stuff because it's always fantastic. And I think that helps, obviously, with that listing, but it also helps with future listings. Because, hey, look at how professional your house is going to look. And so she does such a terrific job with that, and all these details are important. Christi, a colleague of yours wants to know how you decide who to hire on your team, characteristics. Do you do a personality test? Do you run them through like a really intense situation, or do you have any insight about how you hire folks?
Well, I will say that when I started my team, I didn't really know how to hire at all. And so I made a lot of mistakes, and coaching has really helped me with that. And just having people that have hired other employees, giving some advice, that's been really helpful. I do a DISC test. It doesn't always work out the best. I mean, you can hire somebody that you think has the right personality and is going to be a good fit for your team, but until they come on, sometimes you don't know that they're not the right person. And I would say that one of my greatest lessons has been that it's okay to let people go if they're not the right fit for your team, because when you get the right fit, man, everything is great and it really hums along. And if you've got somebody in there that is either not pulling their weight or just not the right fit for your culture, it disrupts everything. And so it's important to find those people, and I really believe in hire slow and fire fast. So if it's not the right person, let them go.
I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about the journey, right? And so the last 15 months have been such an interesting watch, right? And to watch you come into the organization and watch you get settled and begin to identify different systems and tools and support that are here, begin to leverage those, knowing full well that it's like the journey's continuing. Like, we're not there yet, right? We've got a long way to go.
Every day,
which seems funny, right? Again, 40 million plus in sales, and yet we're like, oh, we got a long way to go. But that's it, right? I mean, it's that motivation to the next. One of the things that I've watched you change is your mindset, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's some people on the call, right, that are, again, they're still thinking the same thing. I'm confused. I'm doing all of the same stuff. Like, I don't get it. Why am I not, right? Your mindset changed, and I don't know where it was and when it was, but you went from someone who was just sort of in the hamster wheel to someone who behaved like a CEO of your organization and was okay letting someone go that wasn't the right fit, that was a little bit more intentional on trying to identify the right person to hire, that really tracked their numbers. And then this word that keeps coming to me is relentless. You became relentless, and I'm not sure where it was, but it wasn't easy for you to get your finances in order, to start tracking for a return on investment, to GSD, right? Between coaching calls, I remember having those calls with you, and you were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's not there anymore." Like, what happened?
Well, it appears every now and then. I won't say that it's never there. There's times when I walk out of here like, oh my God, I'm going to get all this done. But just systematizing everything, just really intentionally making our business repeatable. And Shannon, if he's watching, he will tell you we have a long way to go. We're always trying to improve, but it is a daily process, and it's a hard balance between working in your business and working on your business. But you got to create the time to do it, and make sure that you are improving your systems all the time, or else you're going to get caught with the potential for growth and not be able to go there because you didn't have your systems in place. So building those systems as you're building your business is hugely important. And it has helped me just be a little bit more calm.
So the cart and the horse, right? So it was really just doing it, just saying, hey, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And by doing it, blind faith or not, things began to click, and you began to develop a mindset that was more comfortable.
Yes, but it's also about that accountability. I mean, I have a Tom Ferry coach, and I coach with you, and I couldn't have gotten all the things done that I really needed to do unless I had somebody saying, okay, what's our next goal? And let's put a time limit on it. When do you think you can get that done? And I'll pick the date, and I put a time limit on it, and I put it on my calendar, and I block time to get it done and work on it. And then I have to report back. And if I don't get it done, then I have to tell them why I didn't get it done, and that's not a good feeling. It's kind of embarrassing.
Right.
Yeah. And every once in a while, I use the excuse, well, we had this many contracts going at one time, and I had to put some of those other things aside to make sure that the customer service side of our business did not fall apart. And frankly, back in May and June, when we had 34 contracts going at one time, it was a little hairy, and we had some people that were not 100% happy with our services. So that made me step back and realize that sometimes you got to put that working on your business aside while you take care of your clients, but then you've got to circle back around and get back to it.
So you're taking a goal, and you're saying, hey, I'm going to reverse engineer into this. Here are the systems, here are the tools, here's a mindset that's required to accomplish those things, right? And so you build it. You put it to its test. May and June, right? There were some chinks in the armor, right? High class problem, and there's a lot of people on this call that won't do 34 in the year, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we stress test the model.
Yeah.
We came back, and then we're fixing those things. So now we really have something that you can feel real confident that legitimately you could do 34 transactions in May and June, no problem.
Yeah, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
more.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So really, again, operating as the CEO, I'm not sure I really got the answer from you, but maybe somebody else will ask the question as to where that all changed. But all right, so we've been talking for long enough. I know that we've got a bunch of questions, both on Coldwell Banker Inside Track, as well as I've seen some chats coming through. So I think Derek's going to man the question and be the Ed McMahon, as he's so.
Basically, everybody's asked if they can join your team. That's like the question on here. So now this has been great. Here's a couple that from about midway through. I didn't know if they applied to anything, so it might just seem random. Someone's wondering if you'd be willing to share your Excel tracking template, some way that you keep track of things if that's
it's the one
replicable.
The short, I'll answer for her, because it's the one that any of you that have been coached by either myself or your managing director, you already have it.
So there you go. If you don't feel like you have that, then go to your MD and say, I would love to have this template so I can Be like Christi Reece. We are making those bracelets, by the way. What would Christi do that you wear during business hours? Those will be available soon in your Christi Reece Group green.
The thing about your tracker is you got to use it. You've got to put your data in there all the time. And I also have a tracker for my calls and appointments. And so I'm tracking all of it. And it's got to be done every day.
So Christi, so when you're a team, when you're just yourself, like that's easy, right? All you're doing is holding yourself accountable. But when you got multiple people on your team, how do you hold your team accountable to make sure that that information is compiled the way you want it?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a challenge, and everybody on our team has a different personality and a different way they like to do things. So, Mike is really resistant to tracking his daily calls, or at least he has been. But he got to a point in his business where he realized that he needed a visual up on his wall. So I asked him to track one way on a spreadsheet, and it worked better for him to track on a whiteboard on his wall, and then he sends the numbers to me every week. So
But the numbers get sent.
Yes.
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 And I think that's a takeaway. And I know there's many of you that are on the call that have teams and that I've had conversations with. This is sort of a common challenge, right? It's an opportunity to really make sure that that you're leading, that this is your organization, that you're the CEO of your organization, and that this is the way we do things at the Christi Reece Group, right? It's interesting to me. Have you always been that way, or did you tiptoe and like hem-haw around, like, oh gosh, I want the numbers? Or what? And if so, what transitioned to a place where you're like, hey, listen, I need the numbers?
No, I tiptoed for a long time. I mean, I am not a high D. I've done a lot of tiptoeing in my career, clients and team. But you just get to the point where you're running a business and you have to be able to look at the numbers. And plus, I want to be able to help my team members. If they need to report their numbers to me so that we can see, are they having a slow month, and why is that, and what can we do to help? So it's not just about where are we, but why are we there? So tracking the calls that you're making is important to indicate how many appointments you're having and how many closings you're having.
From earlier, someone wanted to know, and this is for either of you, is Sales Edge for real estate only, or is that sort of a general thing for sales?
That's a great question. It is geared specifically towards real estate, but I know he does the class for mortgage professionals as well. I would tell you this, in my career, whether it be as a business owner or a marketing consultant or whatever, the scripts are all identical. They've been the same way since Zig Ziglar donned the stage, to talk about how to sell knife sets or Bibles, right? I mean, it's about knowing the scripts, knowing how to use them. And as Christi said, she used the term internalize, and that's powerful for me. At one point in my life, I ran telemarketing, and so I could tell the ones that were really bad were the ones that had not yet memorized the scripts, which is sort of funny, right? Because what I hear a lot from salespeople is, hey, listen, here are the scripts. Oh, I don't want to sound canned, right? Like, no, I don't want to do that. The ones that are canned are the ones that haven't, right? Because they're the ones that go, so I have this thing to sell. The ones that have memorized them and internalized them, they crush it, because I can interrupt them at any point during their pitch, and they'll stop, answer the question, and go right back to where they left off. And that was actually the test that I used to give the telemarketing staff before I would let them get on the phones. I would let them talk, and I would literally interrupt them. Whoa, wait a minute, what's your brother's name again? And just to try to distract them. But because they had internalized it, they knew exactly where they were there. Boom, they crushed it. So I know I didn't answer the question, but hopefully I did.
Thanks for that. Let's see. How many Okay, Bobby, I'll get to yours in a second, but Robert's got one. How many one-on-one coaching calls do you do each month, Christi?
I have a weekly coaching call with my Tom Ferry coach, and then Todd and I are every other week.
So,
and we talk about different things. You know, I have a different focus. It's a little bit interesting with two coaches, but I love it because there's certain things that I'm working on with my Tom Ferry coach that we're building and building and building, and then I have this aha, and I don't want to put a kink in that momentum of what we're working on over here. So then I have Todd to bounce some other ideas off of, and it's really helpful.
And just so you guys know, our focus, and I've obviously had a conversation with her coach because I'm a coach, right? So we have that relationship. My focus with Christi has been much more on leadership, while Yvonne has been much more in the weeds, right, about the details and the structure. And then so I get to help from a leadership mindset perspective, and then I also get to hear about what she and Yvonne are working on and how maybe some of the systems and tools that Coldwell Banker offers can accomplish some of that, because Yvonne doesn't know what we offer, and how could she? So it's really been I've enjoyed the process, and certainly the numbers show that something's working.
So one of the beauties of this call, at least in my mind, is that we've got all three of our coaching cohorts together. It's not just a leads meeting and then core people meeting and
Right.
launch. So since we have a number of launch folks on this call, and Christi, you've probably answered this in a roundabout way through all of your great insights, but there's a couple questions about what are the three things? I'm new to the business. What are the three things I need to do right now, if you're not going to take me on your team, to get my business going?
Three things to get your business going. Build your database and manage it. You really need to have a handle on it. You need to have complete records of all your clients, and you need to make sure every time you have a closing, you get that complete record into your database and you set up a system for repeated contact. I mean, that's something we're still working on. You know, we're always experimenting with how many times do we want to touch them with all of these different things, snail mail, client parties, emails, phone calls, but setting up a system for touching those folks regularly. I think that's the biggest one. I mean, role play, I would say second is role play, getting together with some of the cohorts in your office and making sure that you're practicing on each other instead of on your clients. And adding those systems as you see necessary. I mean, Coldwell Banker has so many tools, and you gotta not necessarily master one, but have one down, feel comfortable with it before you add the next one. Because that's one of the things I did wrong, was just, again, spread too thin over a lot of platforms and not use any of them very well. So try to bring that back in, and before I add another system, feel really comfortable with the ones that I've got in place.
So as he was talking about, we've got this launch group, right? So these are by and large new agents. So let me ask the same question just a little bit differently, right? I'm a new agent. I have no money. Okay, I have no leads. I'm scared. I believe, like, I'm a 13%er, damn it, right? I'm committed to making this work, but I only have 3 months worth of living expenses, and then I'm done. Like, I'm going to have to go find a job. What do I need to do right now that's not going to cost me money, that's going to help me become successful?
Get on the phone and door knock. I mean, don't be afraid to contact people. Tell them you're in the business. That doesn't cost anything. Do open houses for people, meet buyers, I mean, everybody you meet is an opportunity. If they own a home, or if they're if they own a home, they're a seller. If they are renting, they're a buyer. Maybe they want to buy an investment property. Tom Ferry did a great role play with answering the question, how's the market? And that was, I thought, super powerful. And we've been practicing that, because people are always going to ask you, if you wear your name tag, how's the market? And you need to have the right answer to lead them into a potential appointment situation. But, you know, Facebook is also free. But we talked a lot at the summit about how many new agents were afraid of the phone, and you can't be afraid to get on the phone and call people. And who do you know? call them up, tell them you're in the business, and ask who they know that might need to buy or sell real estate.
Yeah. You know, it was interesting, and this is just a reminder, this is nothing earth shattering, but at the summit, one of the conversations was, you're in sales, right? You can't be afraid of the phone. Like, it does not, it's not an option. And it's one thing to say, I'm committed. Oh yeah. No, listen, I'm new and I'm ready and I have no money and no, I can't pick up the phone. Like, no way. But I'm totally committed. Like, no, I'm one of the 13 percenters, but I can't knock on doors. Like, that's just not. And it was an interesting conversation and dialogue to hear people talk about, if you are going to succeed, you're going to do more than what 87% of the population was willing to do. That is powerful, right? Think about that for a second. You have, in order to survive in the business, you have to do more than what 87% of the licensees are willing to do.
But I would also say, you know, I talked earlier about that mom's group that I was in, and that was huge for me, just becoming part of a social group where there weren't a lot of other realtors. I mean, in a lot of social groups, there's one or two others, but finding that niche of friends that have a common interest with you and treating it like a BNI. You know, you send them some business and they send you some business, and you build those relationships, you take care of those folks, and they refer you over and over again.
That's great. Powerful stuff.
You mentioned all the tools that Coldwell Banker Distinctive Properties has. I don't know what you're talking about, but there's a question. My hands are bleeding. There's a question. Which do you? What's your go-to tool or platform? What do you like? Oh, this is. I always use this because it's the one that just works for me. I know it works for my clients.
Are we talking about like IQ Office? Are we talking about marketing packages? Are we talking about coaching? What are we talking?
Yeah, more specific than IQO. Maybe there's a place you go in IQO and, you know, this is the thing I'm always going to do every single time, every listing or whatever. Is it a e-flyer? Is it your CRM? Just, I know people
is there something that you just absolutely, like, every listing you get, I do this, or every buyer you do, I do that? Or?
No, because I try to tailor it to the property and to the seller. But I would say that I've become a real fan of Google Drive, and that's just something that I didn't have in my life before I started coaching. A place to organize all my thoughts, a place to take notes for myself and anticipate my future business and what I want to do next. You know, I mean, we're experimenting with Trello and Slack and some other systems that we learned about at Summit, and we use a lot of the Coldwell Banker stuff too. But I think for me, my Google Drive is like my.
That made a difference.
That's my Bible. That's where I go to look for ideas, to put down ideas, to keep my thoughts organized and my systems organized.
And just to be clear, right? AOL does not have a drive. So if you still have an @AOL email address. I'm just kidding. Anyway.
Those people aren't on this call because it bounced back when I invited them.
They couldn't get logged in.
Ayo, what the hell? You mean? Well, I know Doc Severinson's ready to play his theme song if I'm Ed McMahon. So, Johnny, is there anything more that you want to ask your guest? We've got about 9 minutes left in our meeting, so I'll squeeze every drop we can. But
did we get all of the questions answered?
I sure think so. I went through it a couple times.
I think I remember seeing one yesterday that said, "How do you know when you're ready for your first assistant?"
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So I think a lot of agents wait too long to hire their first assistant, and they get to a point where they're so busy that then it becomes really hard to train an assistant because you're so in the middle of your business and handling all these transactions that you don't have time to train somebody to do things the way you want them to do. So I think with a little forethought and looking down the road at your business, you hire somebody when you're on that verge. Your hair's not quite on fire yet, but you're feeling like, I probably couldn't handle another 5 clients right now, maybe 1 or 2, but if I went to 5, there's no way. And so You could start with a part-time assistant or a virtual assistant, but just getting some help for all those tasks, because we all know that this business has changed. I mean, if you've been in the business 5 years or more, it changes every year, and there's new technology coming out, and there's more things that we have to do to stay up with all of the latest stuff. And having a little help, it will help. Having a little help in your business will increase your business.
You know, I love the saying, right? If you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant. You know, we see a bunch of different opinions on this, but to me, it seems like the prevailing wisdom is once you hit 15 transactions in a year, you should have an assistant, even if it's part-time, as Christi was talking about. The reality is that in order for you to properly grow your business, to become truly consistent and duplicatable, you have to have systems and processes in place so that the experience that you're delivering to your client is consistent and duplicatable. And likely you're not that person. And even if you were that person, that is a much lower price per hour job, right? So it shouldn't be. So if you're doing 15 transactions or more, you need an assistant, even if it's part-time, so that you can really focus your energies on the things that only you can do, which is meeting the clients and showing the clients and selling clients.
And your first assistant can be your mini-me. I mean, you know, a lot of people's first assistant does all the same stuff you're doing or that you don't have time to do. And then as you grow your team, then you can have your assistants become a little more specialized and create stricter job specifications for them. But the first one is going to be just doing whatever you want them to do, whatever you don't feel like doing.
I'm seeing one question here, Derek. I butt in just for a second. But so Winona asks, does having a team allow you to have a more regular schedule, get time off, spend with your family, or does it actually take more time because you're administering, managing your team? What are the pros and cons of having a team?
That's a great question. And I think that having a team is not for everybody. But there was some really good leadership conferences and breakout sessions at Summit that talked about, you know, make sure that this is what you want to do before you get into it, because it can be really challenging. And yes, you do spend quite a bit of time on managing the team and administration, but the more you build the systems, then the more it becomes a well-oiled machine and runs itself for the most part. It doesn't really run itself, but you hope to improve on that all the time. I think, yes, it has definitely helped me with my schedule. I mean, one of the things that I was feeling with my kids was that I never saw them. And I'd get up on a Saturday morning and spend a couple hours with them and then say, well, I've got to show property this afternoon and I open an open house on Sunday. And now I have team members and we try to divide that labor. Now, one of the things that I'm conscious of is I want my team members to have a life too. So I don't want them to work 7 days a week and evenings and weekends 24/7. So we try to help each other and spread it out a little bit so that we all have a life on the team. It's not just about me, it's about everybody having a better quality of life, earning enough money and not killing themselves in this business.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right, so Kelly asks, what was one of your biggest challenges in your career? And how did you overcome it? And what was the most memorable piece of advice you got when you started out in the business?
Wow. I'll start with the memorable piece of advice because I think it was from my dad, and it was just return your phone calls. You know, I think when I was 24 and got into business, my dad would say, did you call so-and-so? I'd be like, Dad, you know, I always felt like he was doing this. Did you make your phone calls? Did you make your phone calls? And I'd be like, I'll get to it. But he was right. That's, you know, it's about returning your phone calls and contacting people in a timely fashion. And if you can't do it right away, you let them know when you will. So staying in touch with people and doing what you say you're going to do.
What was the biggest challenge that you had to overcome in your career?
The biggest challenge was when I started my team over at Bray. I went from having just an assistant to having my first buyer's agent, and then I brought on a second buyer's agent, and I did not do it well. I went to a 30-minute breakout session at leading real estate companies of the world convention in Las Vegas, and I left there saying I'm going to build a team. but I didn't really know what I was doing. And so I would recommend that you have somebody like Todd or a coach that helps you with those steps, because it is complicated, and you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. They made a ton of mistakes, but when my coach said, you're going to fire your assistant because she's terrible and she doesn't know what she's doing, I mean, that was horribly crushing for me, and I cried when I let her go. And then she said, you're going to fire your buyer's agent because it's not working out. She's taking off more time than you are. She liked to travel. So I was handling her business while she was away. Just running my business like a business. But it was a hard learning experience. But like I said, I'm accepting of the fact that you make mistakes and you move forward. And I am not my past.
That's right.
So.
Well, that's all the questions I have. Do you have more questions?
I don't see any. I'm glad you caught those on Facebook. Thanks. And Christi, this has been great. While I have everyone here, I want to make sure that we give a shout out to Chris McDonald from Vail, who has or just had the Coldwell Banker Home of the Week. So in all the companies nationwide, he had the Home of the Week. So nice job, Chris.
Thank you.
Way to go.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and it's sold now, right?
I wish.
Instant sales. So didn't mean to take that spotlight, Christi, but thanks a ton. I'll stop talking. Todd, you can wrap it up. And thanks, everybody. I will make this available on the YouTube Inside Track, so you can watch it again and see all of your friends' faces.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I just, just wrapping this whole thing up, first of all, when I say we're blessed to have you, I really mean that. Like, you've been such a great addition to this family, and I have so admired your journey and your willingness to sort of, especially at the level you were succeeding, to basically say, hey, listen, give me some feedback, like help me to the next level. That took a lot, and I really love that the journey was focused on having a life worth living versus, hey, let's build a business. The conversations that you and I have are so much about, like, how am I being as a mother? How am I being as a wife? How am I being as a friend? Am I taking care of myself? And later down the list is, how's my business running? How many leads? And I love that about you. And I have to be honest with you, I believe that's one of the key elements of why you're succeeding at such a high level, because I believe that's a CEO's mindset is servant, right? I'm going to serve my people at a very high level. And in the end, I'm going to get back. I know what we're working on in the future, so I can't wait to be working with her here. And as we all talk about the future, I think my hope is that your takeaway is, this is no easy business, but there is no easy journey. Otherwise, everybody be doing it, right? And you have a partner in Coldwell Banker and Todd and your managing directors and all of our staff that says, hey, hand in hand, let's go accomplish more. Let's achieve something that you've identified as your goals. And whether that be through the people in our organization or the systems and the tools, we've built our model so that it is available for you to go from 24 million to 40 million, to leverage what it is that we have with your business. And that's winning, and winning at a high level for both the agent and their team and the company. And so I hope that you'll take away from these interviews more ways that you can leverage our model so that you can have a kick-ass distinctive life. Again, Christi, thank you very much. Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, thanks everybody. I'm always open. If you have any questions, you want to email me or give me a call. Always happy to share.
Okay, we'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Okay, unmute yourselves and give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
All hear it. Unmute yourselves. Yeah, huzzah, huzzah. Thanks, Christi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.